All right, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Itty Bitty Podcast. This week on the show, my buddy stops by, Nicole, the meme machine Gunn. I learned a little bit about Dungeons and Dragons. We talk about how she keeps her meme game strong, and we come up with an idea for a special one-off Halloween episode of the Itty Bitty Podcast. This is not a podcast about memes, though. It's the Itty Bitty Podcast. It's anything but, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Itty Bitty Podcast! It's the Itty Bitty Podcast. It's the Itty Bitty Podcast. The Itty Bitty Podcast.
All right, another week, another episode of the Itty Bitty Podcast, and we have our first female guest on the show. Well, you were on Choice Nugs only, so my wife was officially the first female guest we've had on any show, but it was on Choice Nugs only, so you're the first female guest for the Itty Bitty Podcast, so you can fight my wife if you want to. But
all right, afterwards, we're going to have to fight Amy. Sorry.
Rumble in the front yard, throwing down.
Just in the rain. Like, it'll be epic. It'll be really cool.
Hey, that's how we get down way out in the woods.
It's kind of like how you get initiated into the club. You just got to fight your wife in the front yard.
Yeah, she got jumped in. That's how we did. That's what we did before our marriage. We jumped her in. All my friends just beat her up. We were like, all right, you're cool.
Yeah, you made it. You didn't cry once.
Yeah. Well, she peed her pants a little bit, but we gave her a pass for that. And she doesn't really quite walk right still, but, you know, she took it like a champ. And now we're married, so.
Hey, you know, I guess if that's what you have to do, like.
I guess I should introduce you.
Yeah.
It's Nicole Gunn now, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So congratulations on that. We were just talking about wedding stuff. That's always fun.
And it's a cool last name. Somebody was just telling me I should have been Shotgun.
We got to thank this guy for that. That's not,
I guess I should actually thank your ancestors.
And how is it spelled? It's not G-U-N, it's G-U-N-N, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's even cooler then.
Yeah, so it's kind of unique. And so now I have 3 N's in my name. So Nicole Gunn.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a pretty long name, kind of.
Yeah. Well, so now that you're married, does it feel different?
No, actually, it's kind of the same.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, it's like, oh, cool, I get to wear some jewelry now.
Yeah,
so.
We were just at, like, our 1-year anniversary just happened, so we just did that. So it's like, yeah, it's the same thing. We've been together for, like, what, 7 years? 7 years or something like that?
It's already been a year?
Yeah.
Since we got married? Mm-hmm. Wow, it doesn't even feel like it's been a whole year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we had our wedding. We did it at like a resort type place that they did camps and stuff like that, and but you could rent it out, and there was a lake, so they had a little pontoon. Mm-hmm. So when you were doing the cocktail hour, they were taking guests around the lake, so you would get to like chill and have drinks on the pontoon. And then while we were doing all our pictures and stuff, they would be doing that. And then we got to take one ride around while they did pictures and all that stuff. But everybody stayed there at that night, whoever wanted to. We had cabins, all that stuff. And there was a guy working there. I'm not going to say the name of the place because I don't want to get him in trouble. But he was he sounded like Ned Stark from Game of Thrones. Oh. So we kept having him do you're going to bust that out right now?
Yeah, the pontoon. I was just showing her.
Oh my goodness. I let you on the podcast once and you haven't stopped trying to get on it. It's not going to happen. I told you it was
a taste of fame. I'm just going to look through these now.
Yeah, so there's a guy and he talked just like Ned Stark. So we're telling him to say, you know, winter's coming and shit. And he's working till the end. He's shuttling people around. So finally I'm like, bro, you can stop. Like, you don't have to continue to do this. It's fine. We're going to be good. Come party with us. We want to hang out with you. So we give him a couple drinks and he's hanging out, having a good time. And at some point he busts out like a half bottle of this giant bottle of wine. And he's like, you guys think I can chug this? I'm like, I don't think you should. Like, don't do it. And then after a second, I'm like, you know what? Sure, go for it. Yeah, let's see if you can chug it. Let me get my timer. So he says he can do it in under a minute. I'm like, okay. So he starts chugging. It's a big bottle. He gets a good dent of it done and then stops, doesn't finish under the minute, stops, and then wobbles. And that's when I'm like, this guy's done. So I had told him at the beginning of the night, I'm like, the one thing you can't do is listen to my cousin. If my cousin tells you to do anything, like the answer is no. So he's like, okay, I got it. Like, you can come party with us, you can chill, you can, do whatever. But if my cousin asks you to do something, the answer is no. So we're hanging out. It's about 5 a.m. I look up and I see my cousin in one of the big golf carts that they've been shuttling the bridal party around and like the guests in and everything all night. And she's driving around and he's in the passenger seat. And she comes around the corner and just takes out a whole row of chairs from the wedding that day. Luckily the wedding was that day. Takes out a whole row of chairs and I just see her going full clip. I'm like, she's not slowing down or turning, and she just goes right into a brick wall, like over this little stump into a brick wall at 5 o'clock in the morning, and just makes this loud bang. They crack the front, like there's plastic, like a plastic windshield. They crack that. And the guy's like, in his Ned, I can't really do Ned Stark, but he's like, don't worry about it. That wasn't a very good Ned Stark, but yeah, he was cool shit though. We saw him the next morning. He was the lifeguard at the pool.
Oh God.
And nobody was swimming. Everybody was up till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and he's in the pool just in the humidity, and he just looks like he's dying. I'm like, bro, you don't have to sit in here. Nobody's coming swimming. Like, you're good. So yeah, that was like,
God.
Yeah. So that was my quick wedding story since we were talking about it. But
yeah, nothing like that crazy happened at my wedding. People just blinked and they were drunk.
Yeah. That's usually what happens. Free alcohol. I mean, people got really drunk at mine. So
I was okay with it.
Yeah. It happens. So anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit today. So Nicole's a friend of mine. This is kind of a buddies podcast. So this is the buddies podcast where we just do we had Big V on last week. So that was a shit show. So he's coming over later for the game today. So we'll talk about that, I'm sure, later. But yeah, it was a good one. He talked about growing up in the hood and shit. And so. Oh yeah, because he's not from Washington, is he? No, he's from Northern California. Oh so, yeah. He used to run, in not so good crowds and shit. So he's just trying to do the right thing now. So living out here in Washington. Doing the exact opposite of what he was doing. I call this serial killer country. You're from here, right? Yeah. Yep, born and raised. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of serial killery a lot out here. There's a good chance you've encountered serial killers out here. More than likely in the industry that we all work in. I think you're friends with a serial killer, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And is it the same person? Yeah. So we won't say her name on here, but you know who I'm talking about. We don't need the feds knocking on her door. She'll listen to this and she'll be like, those bitches. Yeah, she's definitely a serial killer, though. Oh, and she knows who she is. Well, do you remember the whole Loomis thing that she went through? What is Loomis? Oh, yeah. Where she was like, if you see them, you have to tell me when they get there and when they leave. Yeah, she watched The Town or something. She must have watched some movie about armored trucks, and she thought that she just kept its schedule. Wasn't it it was the one with, I can't remember his name, but she watched it, Zach Galifianakis. Which one was that? I don't know which one that was. They rob an armored truck or something? He worked for the armory, the armored truck company. Oh yeah, we actually watched that with his wife, and they were super goofy, and they actually get away with it. No, I don't remember, but they almost did. They ended up moving to Mexico. Yeah, it was Kristen Wiig, I think, was in it. Yeah, and so I think she watched that, and then it was she was pregnant at the time, so it talk just for a little bit. Yeah, there you go. You can move it closer to you too if it's easier. Yeah, that way it's just okay, you're good. But yeah, she had this whole thing of you have to tell me. I don't care where you're at and you see them, you have to tell me. I don't care if they're leaving, if they're driving, I have to know where they're at and what time they're there. And I'm like, dude, you can't text about this. You got. I had texted her a couple times. I just texted a time. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm not texting what the fuck. I was just because I'm I'll play along. It's funny, but whatever. So I just would text 9:15 arrive, and then I would wait when they would leave. I'd be like, okay, 9:17 depart, and I would just send that shit. And she'd be like, okay, thank you. Well, it got pretty bad for a while because she would follow them back there and sit in the break room. And I'm like, you can't do that. You need to not be so obvious. Yeah, that's really, yeah. Yeah, so. I thought it was funny because it was just a joke at the time. But yeah, that's a little much. I think she was actually contemplating it. You didn't see like a mask or anything in her car at any point, like duffel bag, like.
If I did, honestly,
she's not like gonna pull a heat and just like have a shootout in the streets or anything like that. Like, no.
Maybe she might one day. She might snap one day and just.
We're 100% kidding though. This is like,
yeah.
She's just a friend of ours. She's like a little bit odd, so. You never. I mean, it's on the internet, so you gotta fucking be careful and shit.
Yeah.
So I always say dumb shit on here, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't have said that, but
Right. You're like, we're just kidding. It's not real.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I don't know shit about Dungeons and Dragons, so that was one of the. I keep seeing like comic books for Dungeons and Dragons, and so we do a lot of pop culture stuff on here. And so one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on was to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I was at Comic-Con yesterday and I saw a lot of cool dice, and I know that that's part of Dungeons and Dragons, but I do know that if I was around in the 70s, like I probably would have done it if I was like given a tab of acid or two, and then we're like, hey, you want to play this game where you like have to use your imagination? I'm like, sign me up. But now I just don't have time, so it is interesting to me, so I wanted to talk a little bit about it. So what's your experience with Dungeons and Dragons, and how long you've been playing, all that stuff?
So we actually started playing Dungeons and Dragons actually at the store that we both worked at the time.
Okay.
And I had made my character when I was super drunk. We went to some sort of meeting up north, and I walked into our DM's room, and I was just wasted. I had no business being in her room, and she hates drunk people. So I walked in, and she goes, "You ready to make your character?" And then I was like, "Yeah, sure." And
you said DM?
DM. So Dungeon Master. It sounds super risque.
Yeah, you just passed right through that real quick. You're like, yeah, my DM. And I was like, wait. And then you said she. I was like, wait, is that who are you talking? I thought it was a work thing at first. And then, okay, so you're Dungeon Master.
So, yeah. So I walked into her room and I was like being obnoxious. And I eventually just made this super ridiculous character that I never like had any intentions of actually using. And it's like the worst character that you could possibly have, which is a drow, because it has sensitivity to sunlight.
Okay.
So it's super hard to play because no matter what, like perception.
Is it like a vampire or something?
It's actually an elf.
Oh.
So it's like whenever you are out in the sunlight and say like you have to roll different things. So if I want to like look around, I have to roll perception to see if I notice something. So say we're out in like the town and they're like, all right, you have to roll perception to see if you notice anybody following you. Mm-hmm. So I'd roll, but I'd have to roll again at disadvantage because the sunlight makes it so I can't see.
Okay.
So anyway, so I made this really ridiculous character. I had no point like plans on actually playing because I always heard Dungeons and Dragons was like this like cult thing.
Right. And how long ago was that?
Probably the 70s.
Well, no, I mean like how long ago is this that you like made your character and you started playing?
Almost 2 years ago.
Okay. So 2 years. Okay. So fairly new.
Yeah, fairly new.
Okay.
But kind of like super into it.
Okay.
Like we got into it like really quick because she ended up was like, you want to play that character now? And we were at the store and we're just hanging out. And I was like, sure, I guess. I'll try. And then afterwards she was like, all right, so what days you guys want to meet up? And it's been Wednesdays ever since. And
you still do it?
We still do it. We still play every Wednesday.
Oh.
We actually just got my husband into it, Mr. Joe.
You had never been into it before? No. Nice.
Well, and he would always, so he'd come to our games and he would be like, you guys should do this, you guys should do that. And I'm like, well, you should just make a character. And he was like, no, I'm not making a character. I'm not doing this. So eventually he ended up just kind of caving and making a character.
Right.
So now we all get together. He plays. Cashlyn kind of tries to get into it.
Okay.
But she's a kid, so.
Right.
But it's really fun. There's a lot of different like angles to it. It's a lot better when you have someone that's actually able to. Am I allowed to say Jess's name on here?
I don't. I mean, nobody's gonna really know. She didn't say her. She's gonna come on, I think, at some point. I talked to her about coming on, so she's gonna come on. She talk, so.
But so Jess ended up making it like this really cool game. A lot of people who end up getting into D&D, they do like book mods, so they have like already planned out stories.
Right.
Hers is what's called a homebrew, where she has taken her own imagination and made this world. So anything that we come in contact with, she's actually created, or she's taken off like another D&D group of some sort. So
Yeah, I've seen her writing them out and stuff, and she's pretty in depth about it.
Oh yeah, like she has a binder that she brings every day or every week, and if we run into someone, she just randomly picks a name, and that becomes like that character's name, and then like it puts them with whatever character she's made preemptively for this. So she's super organized about it, but it makes it a lot easier when we're all new and not used to this to play when she's made this world instead of just here's the world and you guys got to figure it out.
Right, you just kind of, so it's already there for you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
How long, so when you play every week, how long do you play for? Like how many hours?
We start usually at 6:30. We've been starting a little bit earlier, but we usually play until about 10:30. So we play for
About 4 hours.
well, there's some groups that'll play all day.
And then the game, it's one continuous game, correct? So so in the 2 years that you've been playing, how many different actual games have you played?
It's the same one.
It's been the same one?
Yeah.
So you never change characters, or do you get to change characters?
If we die, we change characters, but I haven't died yet. I've been knocked unconscious before in battle, but like I haven't actually died. But there's some groups that'll actually do like one shots. So it'll be like, this is what we'll play today, and the next week we'll play another one.
Right.
And we'll have new characters, and a lot of people actually play like that.
What happens if you can't make it?
Then you don't play.
You just are like,
You miss out
exist.
on like experience points, and then like if you're not there for the game that week, you kind of just your character just kind of takes the back burner.
Okay.
So she tries to not like have us do any like fights or anything if somebody can't make it. That was more of an issue, and our group was bigger, like back when other people played with us. But now it's just me, Jess, Matt, and Joe. So
Right.
It's
It's
easy.
starting to pop up everywhere. It's like they have dungeons and like that sticker I just gave you from Comic-Con. But what does it say? You can say it.
Dark Dice.
Dark Dice. Yeah, it was a podcast. I met them at Comic-Con yesterday. In Portland, Oregon, at the Rose City Comic-Con.
Oh,
And
the Oregon one.
yeah, so there's like podcasts about Dungeons and Dragons. I know there's just Rick and Morty just came out with volume 2, issue 1 of their Dungeons and Dragons comic book. So they have like that. They have different games and all types of stuff. So it was everywhere at Comic-Con. So it seems like it's making I don't know if it's ever gone away or if it's just becoming more mainstream or so. I don't know. You probably know more about that than I do.
I think it's becoming more popular because things like the show Stranger Things had it in their show.
Oh yeah,
It popped up there. It's kind of popped up in like SpongeBob. It's popped up randomly, and I think people are starting to take a bigger interest to it. So people will ask me all the time because I obviously post about it on my personal Facebook, like D&D stuff or my dice. People always ask about my dice. They're like, why do you have all these cool dice? And I'll have to explain to them, well, it's for Dungeons and Dragons, and they'll be like, you play that?
Yeah.
Because it's always so connected to that nerdy aspect, and I've never been like that nerdy kid. So I'm like, yeah, no, it's actually a lot cooler if you don't think about it.
Right. I mean, I have fun. I play Risk. Risk is like the longest game I'll sit and play that I enjoy. But that's only like up to 4 people. How many people can you play with Dungeons and Dragons?
You could have a huge group. It just depends on like the DM. It's easier and it's funner to play when the group is smaller.
Yeah.
Because otherwise
People are yelling over each other.
Well, yeah, and that was actually a huge problem we had for a while where people were talking over each other and I'd get annoyed, and eventually I was just like, okay, we got to figure this out, guys, because otherwise we're not.
Do you get like Dungeons and Dragons beef? I mean, I feel like if you're doing it every week, because like when we would play Risk, we would do it for money. Have you ever played Risk? You familiar with Risk?
I've never heard of it, no.
Risk. You ever played Risk? So Risk, the concept of Risk is global domination. If you've never played Risk, so
I've heard of it. Yep.
Yeah. So up to 4 people, we would play with my buddies, and we would do it each week when we were, when we had time, when we were younger and stuff, and we would drink each week with it. So it would become like a social thing, and we would play for money, and you would make alliances, and you'd have to take over different countries, and you get a certain amount of troops, and as you would take over more territories, you get more and more troops, and the more things you own, the more you would get and acquire, and so on and so forth. But the game could go on for hours. And so we would go outside and smoke cigarettes, and everybody would have to go. Like, we took it real seriously. I didn't talk to my best friend for a week one time because we had an alliance, and he went behind my back, and basically he got down to the last 2, kicked me out, or yeah, got down to the last 3, kicked me out, and then split the money for beer money basically. And so like I didn't talk to him for a week over that. I was pissed about it. So we took that shit real seriously. Yeah. Is that how it is with Dungeons and Dragons? Is it like, so if you fuck me over, I'm gonna stab your character in the heart?
Yeah. We actually had a huge blowout with one of the people that played with us, because that person got upset that someone ended up having to not play with us anymore. But the way that he took it ended up being this whole thing. And he ended up then getting kicked out of our group because he was just being like super, super rude about it and like super like not okay with it. But in game, yeah, I mean, if Joe were to fuck over my character, I'd be pretty pissed. I'd probably end up murdering him in his sleep.
Take it personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know like Matt will get upset if like something happens, and he'll get like super upset about it and like have to go outside and smoke really quick. So
I need to take a minute.
I just need a minute. And then like
these goddamn goblins and fucking dragons.
Yeah. Well, yeah, goblins are awful.
Yeah.
But if he leaves or if anybody leaves the table, like we don't continue to play. Like there's no way. We have to make sure.
Wait. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like if something happens and they're not there for it, they're gonna be pretty upset. But I wouldn't say we leave the game like I don't ever want to play with you again now that we have such a solid group. But there was a point in time that we were like, uh-oh.
Right.
This is getting a little dangerous here.
Right.
But
so what type of I just said goblins and dragons, but so are there different versions of it? So I guess what I'm saying is, can you use like different universes? So let's say you've got a universe where there's goblins and dragons and all that shit. Can you also do one where you're like, you know, we want to do our story, but we want to do it in space?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you can do it wherever you want. It's just kind of where. So, and then the DM is that they would like create all that stuff. Okay.
So they actually have, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a version of D&D where it's kind of like post-apocalyptic almost. I forget the name, but it's really cool. Like the way that you'd play it would be like if the world blew up and you're trying to find out like what happened kind of deal.
Okay.
I just can't remember what it's actually called, but it's super fun, I guess.
Right.
And then there's other podcasts that do like kind of a mix where like they'll do like cartoon based. Like I saw someone post about wanting to do a Scooby-Doo episode and things like that. So you could, whatever you want to do, it's whatever you want.
I think they were doing a show too. The girl she was on the Daredevil show. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Daredevil, but she played, I forget her character's name, but she had a show where she would do Dungeons and Dragons, and I think she would have different like celebrities who were into it on. And so I don't know if it got picked up or not. I used to see previews for it all the time, but so I saw that. That was pretty recently though.
There was one called Critical Role that had he's on White Chicks.
White Chicks, I don't remember. Keenan Wayans?
No, he's the one that's like super in love with one of the girls.
I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Terry Crews.
Oh, Terry Crews.
Yeah.
So he does Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see him doing it.
And he's super funny. It's super fun to watch him.
So do you guys like act it out and stuff like that? You get all into it? Or some people like more so than others?
So Jess definitely.
Oh yeah, I mean I could see that.
She does all the voices.
She's going to be on the show, and I can only imagine because is she doing some type of voiceover thing that she was trying to do or something? She was talking about it at one point, so I had mentioned that when I had asked her to be on the show, but I don't know if she's still trying to do.
I don't know if she actually got into it.
She'd be good at that.
Oh, I think she'd be amazing at it because playing D&D with her, she could do all kinds of voices.
Right.
She'd stay super engaged. Like I would love to hear her read me a book to sleep. I'd be like,
just
play with my hair.
Yeah, I could see that. So I was going back to speaking of. So do you know like about Dungeons and Dragons in the 70s and stuff? Like, do you know about like, is that when it started, the 60s, 70s?
Yeah. So my dad actually,
I don't know anything about it. That's
my dad actually, when I first started playing, kind of talked to me a little bit about it because I asked him about it and he was like, I mean, I played it, but like you don't tell people you play it. And I was like, why? And he goes, you're a fucking nerd.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, Dad, it's not like that anymore. Grow up.
Well, there's just so much like nerdy and geek shit out there. Like I was at Comic-Con yesterday, and there's booths everywhere for different types of shit. There's, you know, My Little Pony, there's Marvel, there's DC, there's comic books, there's games, there's, you know, different types of artwork. So it's just, there's all different types of stuff that people can get down on, games. And so, I mean,
You'd actually be surprised how many men like My Little Pony.
they're
Adult
called,
men?
aren't they called bronies?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, I might be. I think that's what they're. Yeah. So.
Sup, I'm a brony, guys.
Hey, why not? So I used to play. I didn't play with them, but I would be at daycare, and they remember Polly Pocket.
Yes.
Polly Pocket was my shit. Like, because I used to love play sets. And so it was like a mobile play set. So I would use, but I had other little like action figure toys that I would use in the little play set. So I have little action scenes with my Polly Pockets.
So I was never allowed to have Polly Pockets because my mom was always. So my mom is very paranoid. Mm-hmm. So Polly Pockets I couldn't have because even though I was a 5 or 6 year old when they came out,
swallow them.
She thought I would swallow them.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean,
and I wasn't allowed to use sparklers. Because she was like, unless you wet your hair down, put it in a really far back ponytail, you can't use them because you're going to catch your hair on fire.
I mean, it was, was it the 90s?
Yeah.
So that's probably safe to say that, yeah, you probably would have caught your hair on fire.
Well, I mean, I didn't catch my hair on fire, so maybe she was doing something, right?
So, off topic. Shit.
Yeah.
Back to D&D, because I did want to talk more about D&D because I'm trying to learn more about it and stuff. Yeah. So back in the 70s, so it was something that you did that you didn't really do because it was nerdy and shit like that. And we talk, we talk about drugs on the podcast every once in a while. And one of the things that I've heard is that people would do LSD. I mean, I think I talked a little bit about it. So have you heard about that? Is that true?
Yeah. So that was another thing that my dad ended up talking about.
Did he say, I have a book somewhere that I pulled out and there's like a sheet of acid?
We would actually just eat our books because they were acid.
Every sheet was a sheet of acid.
It depends what character you were because that's how strong the acid was. He told me that like if you were to kind of do it, it'd be more of like you're kind of a burnout. Like you would do drugs, you do these kinds of things. So
aren't kids doing them though? Like little kids, like the Stranger Things, those kids are like not on drugs. They're just
I think it ended up
kids.
evolving into something different, but it definitely back then it was like a high school, like you're going to do drugs and live in an imaginary world. And
it's so weird.
And then LARPing kind of evolved and that's the whole thing.
It's so weird that was like the thought process that like if you were playing games that you were like just a degenerate, like
they're like
you're not contributing anything to society except for this game, so you're a piece of shit.
And I wonder, I almost wonder if it was just a bunch of kids smoking weed and not actually doing like hard drugs. People just
I'm sure it probably was like at one point didn't they think it was like the devil's game or some shit?
Yes.
They thought it was like conjuring the devil.
Yes, my mom actually called me recently and was like, "You can't be playing that anymore. You're conjuring
really?
the devil up in our lives." And I'm like, "Sorry, I didn't know I was doing that. Sorry,
Damn,
I didn't know I was summoning the devil."
Well, 666, you heard it here first.
Yeah, praise Satan.
They also
Just
thought,
kidding.
well, isn't KISS? The KISS is like Knights in Satan Service. Isn't that what KISS stands for? The band. And
I
mean,
have
if you listen
never heard that in my life.
I don't know if it's true. That's what I thought I've heard, and they thought that was like the devil's music, but it's like 4 Jewish guys who rock out and all they talk about is like having sex and shit. Like, and so yeah.
I'm gonna look that up when I leave here.
I'm pretty sure that's what it stands for. Yeah. I mean, Amy, look it up. Somebody look it up. What does KISS stand for?
Fact find.
I don't have like a person that looks stuff up for me. I'm not on that level yet.
Right.
Eventually, I'm gonna get some video. So I want to get something to do video.
Knights in Satan Service.
Yeah. See.
Simple, stupid, but that's just what people were assuming that it was.
Yeah, Knights in Satan Service.
So KISS is into D&D, I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think they were more just into like they were just ugly dudes who couldn't get laid. And so they had to be like, have you ever seen any of those guys without makeup?
I've only ever seen them with the makeup.
Not,
God.
yeah, no, not.
Is it kind of like a hairless bear?
Yeah. I've never seen a hairless bear.
I looked it up the other day. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They're ugly.
Yeah.
They look kind of like, they're like what I would think a chupacabra would look like.
A chupacabra. Haven't there been videos of actual chupacabras though? Isn't that like a thing that's been confirmed to be real now? I'm pretty sure it is.
That's pretty cool because I didn't know that.
I'm sure. Eventually, once we get video, we can look it up. But I'm pretty sure there's a video of like a little. It might just be like a little coyote, but I don't know. Who knows?
But if chupacabras aren't real, this is.
I just don't see why they wouldn't be. I mean, all a chupacabra is like a little thing that eats chickens and like it's just a little dog. I don't see why they wouldn't be real. You know, it's not like anything crazy like Bigfoot or Sasquatch, which I don't know. Those could be real too.
Yeah, you gotta be careful in Washington.
That's everywhere out here.
What if Bigfoot's a serial killer?
What if that's why you can't find him?
That's why
he's out here just murdering people. He's like, I'm just gonna
walking
be
around in the forest murdering people.
Just find a mass grave and it's Bigfoot, and one day it just opens up this whole thing. You might have just started a new conspiracy theory. Bigfoot is a serial killer.
Next podcast is going to be conspiracy theories of Washington.
That could be a good sticker. Bigfoot is a serial killer. There you go. I just gave you your first merchandise. Who put the little? That's funny. My dog looks super cute with his little grumpy cat next to him.
Oh, that was probably my 3-year-old.
He's just like chill. Honestly, he does. My dog is like 12 and he acts like a puppy. But when we have kids around, he does kind of chill out and mellow out. I noticed that.
That's good because there's some dogs that just like over the top with kids, and it's like, okay, we need to like separate you two,
right?
Or they don't like kids at all, and like the kid touches them, they like walk away, and the kid's just like, why don't you want to be my friend?
I always worry about like little dogs with kids. Like I don't worry about that dog. He's like 60, 70 pounds. I forget how much he weighs, but like a little dog that just a little yippy dog, man. That's the only time I've been bit by a dog in the face by a little dog one time. That was like the worst.
Oh my God.
Little fucking, I forget what it was. Chihuahua?
Probably a Chihuahua. Those things are aggressive as hell.
Yeah. But yeah, that thing bit me right in my lip. Shit. Off topic. That's what happens on the Itty Bitty Podcast. We get off topic. So back to D&D. I feel like there was something else I wanted to talk about with D&D. We talked about the back in the day. We've talked about how long you've been doing it. So if you could do, you're about 2 years in. So if you can see yourself continuing to do D&D, you obviously you're going to continue this game. But what else? I mean, where else do you go from there? If you're going to do D&D, if you're wanting to get into it, and I just don't know anything about it.
So one day I actually want to do like a D&D podcast because I think it would actually be really fun. There's a lot out there, but I feel like our game is kind of super unique that people would actually get into. But that would be something that I'd want to do when we're more experienced, because there's a lot of times that I'm like, how do you do this? Or what happens if I do this? But
you could do one for beginners. I mean, it could be like because that's very, like with podcasting, you're supposed to be super niche. You're supposed to like narrow your focus. I kind of do, but I don't. I do just the shit that I like. So I'm just like, whatever. I'm not gonna, But I think that a D&D podcast is that. So basically, would you just basically record yourself playing a game? Is that basically what? I have never listened to a D&D podcast, so I don't know. Yeah.
So actually, one of my favorite D&D podcasts, which I think you might actually like if you actually get into like wanting to know more about D&D, is it's called Dungeons and Daddies.
Dungeons and Daddies.
And they always start off and they're like, this is not a BDSM podcast. But it's really, 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 really funny. It is probably one of the funniest D&D podcasts I've ever heard. But they do like a different take on it. They have dads that got transported into a D&D realm. And they're just like, they're like actual soccer dads. And one guy, every time he meets somebody, he's like, hey, Darryl Wilson, nice to meet you. But I just think people get into really cool, different kind of podcasts, which I think with playing with Jess would be something that would end up evolving.
Right.
So, but that's, I think, would be more down the line and going from there. But
would you ever be a dungeon master?
No, that is like a lot of work. That is so much work that I don't have time for.
Right.
And I think I would go into a lot of games unprepared. Like every once in a while, Jess will be like, I didn't plan anything, so we're just going to play it by ear.
Just wing it.
Yeah. But 9 times out of 10, she's prepared.
Right.
I would be like, All right, guys. For the last 5 weeks, I haven't prepared anything, so let's figure it out.
All right, elves, wizards, and go. That would be me every week.
In game.
But guys, I got stoned and forgot to do this. Sorry. That would be me every week. Just like, sorry. So yeah.
I'll just be
wouldn't
like, kids, guys.
Yeah, that's a good excuse.
You know what,
Yeah.
Cashlin? You run the
Yeah.
spot. You run
a lot
this
better
game.
than mine. I'm just like, I'm high, I'm stoned. No. I got high and watched.
No way.
I decided I would watch Dungeons and Dragons rather than,
Yeah, I started just watching a show.
Okay. So I guess we could finish up on Dungeons and Dragons because there was another thing I wanted to talk to you about before we get to the end of the podcast. Okay. Is Amy, I swear.
What?
I told you I don't want to have to beat you on the podcast. I'm just kidding. I don't do that.
You're going to get phone calls. Excuse me, Perry?
Yeah, I know. I'm always worried. Like, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, she would beat my ass. So the other reason I wanted to have you on Dungeons and Dragons, the other reason is I feel like you have one of the strongest meme games of anybody I've met.
I do.
I feel like you do.
I just like to make fun of people's happiness, I guess.
I feel like that's going to put you on blast though now because now you're going to have to like only come with fire memes.
Right. People are going to add me and be like, where are the fire memes, Nicole?
Yeah, I came here for the fire memes and all I got was what you had for lunch. This is no bueno.
So it's actually funny. I don't post a lot of the memes that I make. I just kind of send them off in like...
I'm talking about the ones you make and like just with people that you know on a day-to-day basis just because those are like super funny.
So I actually do a lot of comparison pictures now of people I know.
That's your latest.
It's my new thing. I'm into it. So I'll actually take a picture of someone I know and then compare it to like some ridiculous picture where they kind of look alike and it like works.
You did that with what we call him Johnny Shoemaker in this universe. But you know who I'm talking about. You compared
Mr.
him
Hank
to
Hill.
Hank Hill, yeah.
I really think him and his wife would make the perfect Hank Hill. But then Elena would have to be.
Oh, you just said her name on the thing. Jesus.
Not Elena.
You just said it again. Whatever. Who gives a fuck?
But she would have to be like Bobby or Luann.
Luann.
Yeah.
Was that the cousin?
Yeah.
Luann was the cousin.
Yeah.
That was Brittany Murphy.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I just like
I
had
like
a
Hank
flash
Hill.
to Hank. Yeah. They should bring. Well, I always say that they should bring shows back, but I'm like they should just leave that show. Like they bring back too much shit.
Someone was talking about doing like a live remake of.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, don't do that.
And they had like all the different actors and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another meme that I saw going around. A lot of people take memes for like truth too. People are like, yeah, this is a meme. It's true. So that's another big
It was on
problem with it.
Facebook, so it has to be real. But yeah, so that's been my most recent thing is like comparing people and kind of like making fun of them that way, but like all in fun. But
So how come you don't post the ones that you make like?
because I don't have like I keep my Facebook pretty family oriented for the most part. Like he has a lot of his family, like I have a lot of Joe's family on my page, or
Right.
I have people that I used to work with on my page that I'm like, they don't know this darkness I have in me. So I just don't. So I just kind of share it amongst friends. I plan on one day maybe doing something more with it, but right now I just kind of keep it to myself.
Do you make stuff based on like, because there's a lot of times when I'm watching TV or watching something live and I'm like, I see something, I'm like, that would be a good meme. I wish I knew I had the skills to make that into a meme. Do you do stuff like that?
Every once in a while. So I just got really into this Are You the One show. I don't know if you've ever actually watched it, but it's,
Are You the One? Is it like a reality show or something like that?
yeah, so it's a show on MTV where like all these singles get put into a house and they're all, each person has their own like perfect match. And if they get all the matches, they win like $1 million. But if they get what's called a blackout, they lose $250,000 each time.
Sounds like a perfect show for music television.
Right. So I ended up getting into that really recently, and I follow the newest cast on like my dumped Twitter, where
Okay.
it's like it's not me, but it's me posting. And I posted this one where it was like, everybody watching Are You the One is like, raise your hand if so-and-so, or if you had sexual contact with so-and-so. And it's that picture of the mean girls all going like raising their hand. And that one got pretty passed around just recently. So
you can make smut memes for me. I'll take them.
Smut memes? Yeah.
I'll just credit, like, we'll just be like, all right, Itty Bitty Podcast, this is our memes from, you can be our meme machine, and then we'll just credit you. And that way your family never has to know about it. You can have a cool name. So
yeah, I'll be the meme machine. But now,
yeah, there you go. That's how I'll introduce. That's the title of this podcast. It'll be
Meme
Nicole
Machine.
Nicole the Meme Machine Gunn.
God, that is a hard name. Meme Machine Gunn.
It's cool. It rolls off the tongue. Don't worry about it. People will get it.
Everyone besides you will get it, Nicole. It doesn't matter.
Are you good at social media?
I'm very good at social media.
I suck at it. You know I suck at it.
Dude, I know.
Yeah. I had when I was first started, because I had an Instagram, like my personal Instagram I've had for a couple years. And if you look at it, it doesn't have a picture. I've never posted on it. I barely have ever used it. And I have more followers than my 2 podcasts. So I have the 2 podcasts that I've been doing for, a couple months now. And I have more combined, I have more followers than my personal one. But just from that that Instagram account I had being open, it's got followers that I'm just like, so that shows you how good I am at getting more followers and shit on social media. I'm terrible at it.
This is actually funny. That cracked me up. So you were asking me one time, like, what do I do about like promoting like gear and stuff, or like, because I asked you about getting stickers from you, and I was like, well, post online, like, and then say like tag 2 friends and share the post or whatever. And when I said that, I meant it like on Facebook, and you didn't do it on Facebook. You did it on
really shittily. You
did it on Instagram, and I was like, you can't share posts on Instagram.
Yeah.
So
the other thing I did was I've went with the pictures. When I go to post pictures, I didn't know you could like crop them and shit. So it's like have my pictures have half my face and shit. So I'm like, yeah, that's how good I am at it. I'm learning. I mean, you have to learn that shit. It's crazy. It's not like something that's just comes easy, and I found that I'm like, oh yeah, it'll be easy to do the podcast. I'll just throw a podcast up, and the social media stuff will be.
It'll just come to me.
Just come to me, and it's not. People are like, did you know? I get calls every time I do a post. I'll get a call, and it's like Mike Lick, who's on the podcast. He has Swell Surf Company. He'll call me and he'll be like, hey, did you know that you did this? I'm like, what did I? Every time I post, I'm waiting for the call because I'm like, I know it's gonna be. What did I do this time? Hey, did you know that you cut your face off in that picture? Did you know you didn't put any hashtags in your picture? Did you know that you put the color on black and white and you meant to do it in color? Like shit like that every time. I fucking suck at it. But I'm getting better, but it's just remembering to do all that stuff. I need to get better at planning posts. You're supposed to do it like 30 days in advance, but I don't have time for that shit.
Well, right. I think honestly, I would just do it like week of, hey, this week we're going to have so-and-so on the podcast.
I try to, but I post them on Tuesday. So on Sunday, Monday, I'm usually like working. Like today, I'll work on it throughout the day while we're hanging out watching football. I'll do all day working on that. The motherfucker's passed out. And so I'll work on the podcast, and then it'll come out on Tuesday. But I spend all day Tuesday promoting, and then the next day, and just my thing is content. Coming up with content to post about. It's hard to remember every day to post new things. You
could go on Facebook and be like, what do you guys want us to talk about this week? Like, what's a good topic? Winner of the topic pick gets a sticker or something like that. Yeah. Like mail it out.
Yeah.
That way people kind of that way you get your followers kind of involved. Right. Because I think a lot of people who do podcasts and stuff, they don't try to get their followers involved. They just kind of.
That's what I've been. Yeah, that's the big thing I've been told is getting together with. Like eventually once we get the camera, I want to do a live stream of some sort and so rather than do like the podcast live, we would record the podcast, put that up on YouTube, and then record something else live each week, just as something for the people that listen all the time. But yeah, that's the hardest part, is just getting people to listen to it. And I missed a huge opportunity when I went to Comic-Con because I was supposed to get a bunch of stickers, and I I ordered them in August thinking they would be here, and the post office got held up, so I didn't get to pass them out. But I'm gonna get a bunch of them and pass them out and shit too. But yeah, it's a lot with social media stuff that people forget. That's the thing, is something's posted and within an hour people forget.
Well, right. Well, I see your post almost regularly. Like I see when you post on like promotion pages and things like that. So I'll see them whenever you post them. I think it's just a matter of like getting people to like the pages and things like that. Because I'll share it. I always share like my friends like stuff. Like if they're trying to get their feet on the ground, I share it, and that gets people like listening or like questioning what it is. Because every time I've posted like the Itty Bitty Podcast, people are like, what is it? And I was like, well, it's the Itty Bitty Podcast.
Yeah, it's anything but.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I try to keep it so where I can do whatever I want. That way it's like if it's a week where I don't have something, I can have somebody on who can fill in or come on and do stuff. But I've reached out to people on different social media networks, and there's different podcast guest connections, so you can meet up with people and do it remotely. I've done one remote podcast. That was kind of weird. I like doing them face to face, but it's hard to get guests in the middle of nowhere. So I'm mobile at this point, so I'm kind of going wherever I can break this down in like 5 minutes and take it.
Well, I remember when you first got all this stuff, you were like, we could do a podcast here at the store with the...
I did one at one of the stores that I don't know if, whatever, I don't give a fuck. They probably don't listen to it. If they do, I don't give a fuck. But I did one like a while back at one of the stores. I'm not going to say which one, but it didn't work because there's like equipment in the back and it just hums. So the mics picked it up. So we did like episode 2 of one of the shows there. And mics picked up everything. But yeah, it's pretty remote. I can break it down and do it everywhere. Cool. So if you ever want to help with your Dungeons and Dragons podcast, I can tell you what to do. It's pretty easy. Yeah. But this guy, it's a Zoom H6. I use this thing. This thing breaks down. It has a little carrying case, and you just bring that shit everywhere.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That'd make it so much easier, because when I think podcasts, I think it's like this big ordeal.
Eventually I want to get it to the point where I have my own place set up where people have to come to me and, like they're going to want to come to me. But obviously I'm just starting getting bigger and bigger. So
how come you haven't had Mr. Hank Hill on the podcast?
He doesn't think he's interesting. I don't know. He can be like... We haven't. I had just done the first, like I call them buddies episodes. I had done that one last week because I had a couple of things fall through for interviews, and so I haven't had him on yet just because I don't know. He doesn't think he's interesting. He says, I don't know. We have a lot of stuff that we talk about. So I don't know.
I was gonna say, you guys are buds. You guys would probably flow pretty.
It would be, yeah, I'm sure it would be good to do it, but I'll get him on eventually because I'm going to need him to do it at some point. I'm like, listen, motherfucker, now's the time. He was on kind of, we recorded one in his shop, up in the shop. So there's pictures of it on Instagram.
I thought that was his shop. I wasn't sure.
Before we went and saw Nas that day.
Oh,
and
dope.
So, yeah, we went and pre-game podcasted there. So he's been kind of in the background and we've talked about him before.
Hearing his loud ass laugh.
Yeah, that's the thing is he laughs. I've made fun of him before. I said he laughs like Jared Leto's Joker because he has.
Oh my god!
So yeah, I make fun of him for that all the time. But
he's just got the loudest, most booming laugh. Like if you walk into the store, that's all you hear.
Yeah, you can hear him from a mile away. I'm sure he'll come on at some point and talk because I've told him, I'm like, he's got an interesting story and shit. So I'm like, people, in your situation.
So I have to bully him into it.
Yeah, well, everybody thinks it's more than like everybody's like, oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna talk about? And it's like I usually have like 1 or 2 topics to talk about, but like for the most part, we just kind of bullshit.
We actually just sit here and stare at each other.
We just stare awkwardly. Yeah. But yeah, it's just basically having a conversation. And honestly, the last couple ones I've done, just because we've been drinking during them, it's super fucking hard. Like when you think podcasting, like, oh, it's easy to have a couple drinks, but it's not, because when you're drinking, you're like, you're kind of shooting the shit and whatever. But when you're podcasting, you have the headphones on, you're talking one-on-one, and when you have a couple of drinks, it's hard to like, you're like, oh, what are we talking about again? Yeah, so it's kind of nice to do a podcast without drinking. The last couple ones have been so. The last one we did was a complete shit show last week's episode, so I apologize if you listened to that episode, but it was a good episode. It was just, you know, I
haven't listened to it yet, but I'm gonna have to listen to it.
Yeah, it was interesting. So
I actually get notifications on my phone every time you post it.
Yeah, I have. If you have
awesome.
it set up, if you subscribe to it, it shows up. And I just got everything. I've been uploading them on YouTube, so we're on YouTube now.
Cool.
So there's no video. It's just it's just the background.
Just this background.
Just that background, yeah. So I'm just working, but my social media skills will get better. I'm gonna have you. I should have you as a consultant.
You should. You just send it to me, and I'll tell you yes or no.
I'll be like, how do I do this?
Is this Carson?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So Carson's on there. He's actually Amy filled in for him on that show last week, but he is a co-host on my show, Choice Nugs Only.
Nice.
So yeah, we've been doing it every week. So that one we do weekly. That one's more like smut based. We just talk shit and bullshit, and it's
Do you
really
remember
raunchy.
all those the Disney videos that I have?
The Disney videos that you posted? Yeah.
I still have his. His was the funniest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to send me those so I can post them for I don't know, at some point.
For shits
but I think
and
I'm
giggles.
like 60 pounds heavier in that. Video.
You've lost a significant amount of weight since that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could still spin though. I was spinning like a motherfucker.
Oh, you were, and you had a little finger thing going.
I remember those. I used to do those all the time with those Disney. Oh, speaking of Disney, we just went and saw 98 Degrees and Boys to Men. They were at the Washington State Fair. Yeah, 98 Degrees did.
Right over my head.
No. You don't know who 98 Degrees is?
No.
No?
No.
Boys to Men? You know who either of those groups are?
I've heard of Boys to Men, but I've never heard of 98 Degrees.
98 Degrees was, you remember when Jessica Simpson was dating that dude and they had that show?
Yeah.
That was Nick Lachey
Oh.
from 98 Degrees. They were just a boy band. They were like the shittier version of Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
So Walmart brand.
Yeah, it was just like, you know, they were like the ones that's like, well, we can't get, Justin Timberlake. We can't get any of the guys from Backstreet Boys, so we'll get 98 Degrees. So they were on there, and they weren't that good, but they were all right. Oh, don't worry about it. We're almost done anyway, so it's not a huge deal. This podcast already is pretty much, we're pretty much to an hour, so
Cool.
we can start wrapping it up. We usually do about an hour. Do you want to finish up with any final thoughts on your meme game, or plug any of your social media accounts or anything like that?
So if you do want to follow me on Instagram, I do plan on starting to post a little bit more like memes and stuff on my Instagram, because that's more, who cares?
Yeah.
My Instagram is Notorious Nicole with an O or a 0 for one of the O's. So figure it out. You'll find me.
Figure it the fuck out.
Yeah, you guys are fine.
Although I don't know how smart my listeners are, but I don't want to insult their intelligence, but
Yeah.
they're listening to me and I'm not that smart. So
You guys will figure it out. But other than that, I think my meme game will be stronger than ever.
And are you going to start giving us some memes for the Itty Bitty? You can give
Yeah.
us Itty Bitty exclusives.
Yeah.
Sweet.
You just got to send me pictures that you want
I'm
me
like,
to use.
I want this into a meme.
meme this.
I'm
for
sure
me.
we'll find some watching football today. There's always some shit that happens on
Something
commercials.
happens. Yeah.
That's the only reason I like watching football, because they have the commercial. Not like the only reason I like watching. That sounds like such a stupid thing to say. The only reason I like watching football like live and watching commercials is because like some of the commercials are so dumb that you can just be like, there's something funny here. So
That's why I like award shows, because something might happen.
something might happen. If you're the first one to get on that meme too.
Right.
So
But they're getting better about making it not happen.
yeah, they're like, they try
After
to.
Kanye West.
Yeah. Kanye. Fuck. I love Kanye, but he's.
Nobody
I don't
loves Kanye like Kanye. I promise you.
know. All right. So we'll finish up. We'll wrap it up here. Thanks for coming on
Yeah.
and bullshitting about D&D and social media and shit. We'll do it again at some point. I'm going to get a couple more mics. I want to have like more people on and do like, whoa.
Damn, you all right?
Yeah, dude, he just commands a room. He comes in with his little Batman tags. But I want to get more people on. So I want to get like 4 people, and maybe we can do like a special, we'll do like a small game of Dungeons and Dragons or something like that.
Like a one shot. Jess
like
would
a
love
one
that.
shot, like, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll get, because I have a mic that you can put on too. You can get more than 4 people on here.
Yeah.
So we'll do that down the road. But
Cool.
but it'll have to be something silly. It can't be too serious. So
Yeah.
it'll
Talk
be
to
something
Jess.
entertaining.
She'll-
Yeah, we'll figure something
Yeah.
out. But Anyway, thanks for listening to the show.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming on. And I'll talk to you next week. Peace.
Boom.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Itty Bitty Podcast. Don't forget to jump on Instagram and follow us on Instagram. Itty Bitty Podcast on Twitter at Itty Bitty Pcast. Check out the website ittybittypodcast.com. You can email us there if you have any questions, suggestions, comments, anything. If you want to be a part of the show, go there onto the website and you can submit it right there from the website. And then don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. And we'll be back again next week with another episode of the Itty Bitty Podcast. And I'll see you bitches later. Peace.